Hello, everybody! Welcome to another episode of Penny Rambles. I'm your friend Lucky Penny, and today we're going to be doing something a little different than normal. Instead of me going over a hot take that I have in very fervent nature, today we're going to go over a hot takes you guys have. I put out a community post about a few days ago asking for a couple of hot takes that you guys might have had. And I got a few responses, so we're going to go over them in decent detail today, and we might even throw a few of my own just to be a little even. That way everyone is going to get some flame here. And we're going to go over these hot takes. We're going to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 based on how hot they are. And I think we're going to have a good time. So, a few things you need to know. We're going to continue on making this a series. So if any of y'all are interested in having your hot takes rated, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to support the channel, obviously you got to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. And, of course, have a fun time. Please keep in mind as well, these opinions are just that, opinions. And, we don't need to be harassing each other over these opinions, so, I might give you a little shit, but, you ain't gonna get harassed. So, I hope y'all guys have fun. First hot take of the video comes from YREF on YouTube, and they state that, quote, "Is it even a hot take to say Mario is the less popular Mario brother based on polls, despite people saying that he isn't?" And, oh, that is actually kind of a hot take. Because, well, not in the sense that, like, Mario is, like, the less popular brother. He's technically the less popular brother amongst the in-crowd. Like, a lot of people really prefer Luigi to Mario because Mario doesn't really have that, well, that personality, really. When people think of Mario, they just think about him saving the princess. He doesn't really have many distinct personality traits other than, you know, the boring ones. Luigi, on the other hand, Luigi actually does have personality traits. He has character flaws. He's loyal to his brother. He cares very much about his brother. He's very cowardly. maybe too much to a fault. And that goes into a later hot take that we're gonna take a look at later. But he actually does have character flaws and character dynamics. And Mario just doesn't have that. But the reason why I say that Mario is the most popular brother among the set is because when you gotta keep in mind that among gamers, Luigi may be more popular, but amongst the general populace, Mario is a lot more recognizable and a lot more, well, identifiable than Luigi. Mario is the face of Nintendo as a company. Mario, people know Mario. People really do know Mario a lot. So because of that, we're gonna end up having a lot more people who don't really know games all that well, recognizing Mario or Luigi, even though character-wise, he's not really the kind of character we like in a game. Like, he's just the protagonist. Now, I will admit, that could potentially change, but, in my opinion, that is a very tepid take. It's a tepid take depending on who you are. If you're referring to people who are outside of the gaming sphere, it's safe to say that Luigi's the more popular one. It's a very lukewarm take. But if you're talking about overall, I'd say that's a fairly medium take. I'd say like 5 out of 10. It depends on what you refer to, though. XX_YT states, Pepsi actually does taste differently to Coca-Cola, and it's better. That is objectively true regarding the taste thing. The taste thing is something you can quantify. And as someone who does drink a lot of soda, I can definitely tell the difference. With Coke, it feels a lot less sweeter compared to Pepsi, but it feels a little bit more like soda compared to Pepsi. Like, with Pepsi, it feels like you're more like drinking syrup than you are soda. Like, it just doesn't really feel like carbonation whenever I drink Pepsi. It could be because I drink a lot of Mountain Dew, which is also a Pepsi product, and they use the same carbonation techniques in that, but I really don't know. But when I'm drinking Pepsi, it feels more like I'm drinking syrup than I am drinking a soda. But, as for which one is better, that actually does come down to personal preference for me. I literally just changes depending on the day. I do end up finding myself drinking Coke a lot more often than I do Pepsi, but that's mostly just comes down to the fact that Coke is usually just easier for me to acquire. Usually, like, there's a store I actually go to pretty close to my apartment. The Pepsis are rarely on sale, even though they're, like, generally cheaper by the price point. The Cokes tend to be on sale. Usually, I remember actually going there and finding a sale for buy 2 get 3 free for 12 packs of Coke. So, yeah, that's why I end up drinking Coke a lot more often, because while Pepsi does tend to be cheaper on the whole without discounts, Coke does tend to get those discounts more often, and they end up being pretty good discounts. But In terms of taste, I really do think Pepsi does taste a tiny bit better. So, ranking the take, I would say that it's a solid... I'd say it's a solid 5 out of 10. I say 5 out of 10 because it's not like the fact that it's actually a tepid take. It's just like, whenever you... It's like, well, you can get that right. A lot of people do prefer Pepsi over Coke, but the thing is, people tend to get somewhat heated whenever they bring up this discussion, so it's definitely going to get a lot more hotter than normal. So, maybe I'll give it a 6. Good luck with that one. I do agree with you, though. Pepsi does tend to taste better than Coke. Protogen Nerd 456 states Luigi isn't cowardly, he's reasonably scared. I'd argue, to some extent, that that's true. But at what point do we draw the line? Now, this is coming from someone who hasn't really played a Luigi's Mansion game in, like, ever. I have seen gameplay of it a lot of the time. I do see, like, a lot of YouTubers talking about it. Like, if you were on YouTube from, like, 2011 to 2015, you saw gameplay of Luigi's Mansion, because, like, it just seems like no matter what you did or where you went, Nintendo was just everywhere on that particular sector of YouTube. But I'd argue that, like, if you're going into a spooky-ass mansion to try and save your damn brother, and you end up getting fucking haunted by, like, ghosts and all that shit, yeah, that's reasonably to be scared. That's a reasonable thing to be scared about. But, like, there are situations where it's like, Luigi just gets scared for no reason. Like, he hears a door getting shut, and then he's just like, oh my god, a door! And it's like, ugh. He's scared to a fault, but to argue that, like, he doesn't deserve to be scared is kind of stupid. So, I give that take a 2 out of 10. Very, very cold, but not exactly cold enough to the point where it's like, it actually is debatable, you know? Like, it's like a decent take. Sewer Troll 3840 says, the Empire, Star Wars, the Imperium, Warhammer 40k, and Super Earth from Helldivers did and has done nothing wrong. Oh, we got a lot of heat on this spectrum. Okay, as for the Empire, that is like as fucking hot of a take as you can get. That is as hot of a take as you can get. To say that the Empire has done nothing wrong, oh, I mean, they may have exterminated a planet or two. They may have instilled martial law across the entire galaxy. They may have basically ruined the only hope that the galaxy ever had, and they may or may not be pawns for the dark side of the Force, but, I will admit, though, their uniforms are kind of cool. As for Imperium, I really do not know. I am not a Warhammer fan. I have never been a Warhammer fan, and I probably won't be a Warhammer fan. I'm not really a big fan of the game. But, or the comic books, or whatever the fuck. But I'm not really a big fan of the series, so I really can't make a comment on that, so I'll give that... I'll just, like, go and give it a 5 out of 10, simply because I just don't know. And as for Super Earth, that is treason, my friend. That is treason! To say that the Super Earth has ever possibly done anything wrong. To say that a Super Earth could even potentially do wrong is treason. Will we have to send you to re-education camp, my friend? Glory for Super Earth! So, to rate the takes, Super Earth, 1 out of 10. Super Earth can never do anything wrong. Imperium, 5 out of 10, just don't know. And as for fucking Empire, 10 out of 10 right there. Oh my god, that is a fucking hot take if I ever heard one. I am going to mispronounce this one so hard, but Rivaldu Villagaz 3725 says, what if the IRS are actually the good guys all along? Now this is one of the hottest fucking takes I think I've ever seen. Like, who fucking praises the IRS as the good guys in anything? Like, who does that? Who even does that? Like, that thing is like a 10 out of 10 on its own. But, like, if we were to look at this take objectively, I would say that, theoretically speaking, the IRS are technically the good guys. They're basically like Robin Hood, gate from the rich, supposedly give to the poor, but, Jesus, it's so loaded with bureaucratic bullshit and workarounds. It's like a good thing turned into a villainous thing just by simply not really doing what it's supposed to do. I don't want to get too much detail here because I really do not know much about the IRS and how it works. But, yeah, that's a 10 out of 10 take if I've ever fucking heard. And last but not least, time for my hot take. I don't like Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 is actually one of my least favorite Borderlands games in the franchise. I actually argue one of my least favorites of all time. Like, the only game I think is actively worse is New Tales from the Borderlands, and that is because, well, New Tales is New Tales. But if New Tales was out of the picture, I'd argue that Borderlands 2 is probably my least favorite. And you're probably wondering, well, why is it your least favorite? Why could it be your least favorite? It's the best one overall. One problem. The end game. A Borderlands lives and dies by its end game, alright? A Borderlands game lives and dies by its end game. And the Borderlands 2 endgame is just simply not fun. I don't find having to increase my levels to get decent loot fun. I don't find fighting enemies that are literally just 10 levels over me for no other reason than because they didn't know how to make a decent gameplay challenge fun. I don't find fighting raid bosses that have inordinate amounts of health for no other reason than because they couldn't balance a good fight fun. I just don't find it fun. Now, for a one-time playthrough, Borderlands 2 is amazing. The problem is, they don't expect you to just play the game once. They expect you to play it multiple times. At least 3 times. Maybe even more, depending on how you feel about the game. And because of that, it just isn't fun. It just isn't fun for me. You just gotta constantly play the game over and over and over again, and you just do the same shit over and over again. And the weapon balance is also ridiculously bad, so you're gonna be using the same guns over and over and over again. It's just really fucking repetitive for me. At least with, like, the other games, there's, like, some semblance of balance and progression. There's some semblance of the reason why you want to do this. Like, because, like, most of the weapons in those games are typically balanced. Pre-sequel, prime example. There's actual reason to use some of the lower tier guns. There's actual reason to use the non-uniques. There's actual reason to use some of the legendaries, you know? Instead of just, like, 95% of the guns being completely useless and not really having that much of a use. Borderlands 3. Well, there's a fuck ton of legendaries in that game, and a lot of them really aren't fun. Most of them are actually viable in the late game. They're viable in Mayhem 11. Borderlands 4. They also have the same thing, where it's like, weapons are viable. Weapons actually have a reason to exist. Weapons are actually fun to use. The purple weapons are also really good. The legendary weapons, while not as unique as the other games, are good. They do have a reason to exist. Borderlands 2 just doesn't have that problem. It just has that problem. It definitely doesn't have that problem. I meant to say it has that problem. But, like, yeah, I just don't like it. I'm afraid that's all we have time for, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. If any of y'all want your comments to be read out and hot takes judged by yours truly, I believe the best way to do that is to leave it in the comment section below. I'll be sure to heart the ones that are going to make it into the next episode. Until then, I'm going to be streaming, I believe, on the day this video comes out, around 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be playing some GTA live on the air, so if any of y'all are interested in that, check out the live feed. I'll be sure to, be live by the time you see this video. So, until then, I'll catch you all next time.